Time for another Fireside Chat. We have a special one today. Of course, we're being joined by our pastor, Father Jeremiah Boland. How are you doing, Father Jerry?
Very good, Terry. Always good to be with you.
Well, this is going to be a very exciting conversation. Our guests here, Margaret Pasquesi and Paula Kowalkowski. Did I pronounce that right?
You did.
How about that? That was a tongue twister. Before we get started with our topic, we're going to be talking about a brand new event, brand new service, the Blue Christmas service, and I'm really excited to hear about it, but let's get to meet you first. Margaret, you do so much here at OLPH. Tell us about yourself.
So I am I was born into and baptized to this parish. I am an OLPH school alum, and I moved out west for a while and then came back to OLPH, came back to Glenview in 2023, that would be last year, 2003. So I've been back for 21 years.
Wow, that's amazing. And you do other things here, just briefly. The parent effectiveness training is one of the things you do?
Yes. So I am a cantor for the parish. I've been involved in the Guild and the Women's Club. I still teach with Liz Swider, the parent effectiveness training in honor of Father Patty.
Excellent. And Paula, you're the facilitator. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Right. So I was born and raised on the south side of Chicago, and lifelong Catholic. And actually, a fun fact is my uncle was a Dominican priest and a Nigerian missionary. So he did missionary work in the 60s and 70s in Nigeria. So I started in music right off the bat. I started playing piano, and I started playing for my parish church, the masses, and got involved in music. So I was trained in music education, and I taught at many all-girls Catholic high schools. I was the choral director and really enjoyed that work. And more recently, I've gotten into spiritual direction. I went to Loyola University for my spiritual direction degree, and most recently in Ignatian spiritual direction.
Okay, great. Well, before we get deep into the topic, Father, let's talk a little bit about how stressful Christmas can be. It's such a joyous time for all of us, but there can be stresses, whether it's a loss of a family member, or divorce, or loss of job, or illness. What's the role of the church in helping people in this season?
Well, it can be a season of extremes. You know, you have the joy of and wonder of Christmas and all that surrounds it, family gatherings. Some of the most beautiful liturgies of the year are taking place at Christmas time. But, you take a community like ours, 3,200 families, and you start looking at the faces that are in that congregation, and for a significant number of people, Christmas is a tough time. For some, we sort of idealize the ideal childhood, and for some, their childhood was difficult, and Christmas can bring out some painful memories. We have families that are in crisis, If you have financial problems, they're highly accentuated at Christmas time because your children are bombarded with images of what they don't have and what they do want. Then there's the human reality of dealing with loss and illness. And in a congregation like ours, in the course of the year, we'll have a couple hundred families that have experienced death in the previous year. And, there's an anxiety. What's Thanksgiving or Christmas going to be like when Dad not here, or Mom not here, or my brother not here? Families that are going through a divorce or estrangements, this just heightens the suffering that can happen this time of the year. And you kind of feel like you have to go under the surface because nobody wants to hear about it, or people don't know what to say, or they don't know how to respond. And sometimes it's just a simple recognition of, I think this must be a tough time for you, can be very comforting. I was so pleased when Margaret first brought the idea of this Blue Christmas celebration. I was aware last year at Christmas we just had some just painful deaths at Christmas time. And I just felt so inadequate of how do we assure, comfort, encourage people in which this isn't joy to the world time of the year. It's just difficult. It's complicated. And acknowledging what you're feeling in any facet of life is a crucial element of healing. And we've been woefully, I think, insensitive to how complex the holidays can be, and particularly for those who, have are approaching the holidays with anxiety, or they're discouraged or depressed or anxious about things. They have a place at the table just like everybody else, and how can we gather them? So that's why when this great idea that Margaret had shared with me, when I talked to our bereavement people and to our social worker on campus, they thought it was a wonderful idea. And so I'm glad we're having this conversation. And Paula, we're so thrilled that you're going to be able to lead us. You've done this for so many communities, and I'm sure it's going to be an enormously grace-filled experience here at OLPH.
All right, let's get to the heart of it. Paula, tell us, what is the Blue Christmas Service?
Yeah, so I'm the music director at St. Thomas Becket Parish in Mount Prospect, and a few years ago my then pastor, Father Chris Kulik, came to me, and knowing of my background, so I lost my husband in 2014, and he said, you have experienced loss. He said, so many people in the parish have experienced loss, like Father was just saying. Why don't you put together a Blue Christmas service? I had been doing Taizé services around the holidays, and so I said, well, I don't even know what this is. And so I started looking it up and researching it, and I found out that this really came about. It's also called the Longest Night Service, because it's normally done around December 21st, which is the longest night of the year. And I realized that a lot of Protestant churches have done it in the past, starting in like the 1990s, but now the Catholic churches have also begun to partake in this kind of service. This is a service, like Father said, for people who have lost folks in their family, friends, who are in broken relationships. And it's a service, a service for anyone who have lost jobs, any kind of loss, where joy to the world is not really ringing true for them. It is a service, it is not a mass. It has scripture readings, it's got a reflection, it's got poems, and it's got beautiful music. That's why we have Margaret involved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. Now, Margaret, we just had the Mass of Remembrance on All Souls Day. How do these two events differ, and how do they relate?
So because All Souls Day was on a Saturday this year, different churches decided to have it on different days. In our Catholic community of Glenbrook, which are all participating in some way, that's St. Norbert, that's St. Catherine's, OLPH, I got to do all three All Souls services. And these services are amazing. And the thing about them that's so striking that we do in hospice work at our interdisciplinary team meetings is the naming of the dead. There's something that's so important about not forgetting them and naming them and acknowledging our grief.
The candles for every person.
Yes, and all three parishes do this. They light the candle, they'll ring a bell, we have the harp playing underneath it. It's so potent. And there are these other sorts of grief, right, that aren't related to death. So the All Souls Day, the naming of the dead, is really specifically around death, and in particular those that have died in the last year, so recent bereavement. So who we're inviting to the table is anyone for just whom Christmas just feels a little, it's not, and it can be, you're away from your family's intact, but for whatever reason, you're not able to go home for Christmas. Or I love what you talked about, like the idealized Christmas that your family never really had. you know. And there's something that's so important in naming the grief. So if you think of All Souls Day was the naming of the dead, what we're naming is honoring our actual experience of, this is a tough time for me, and it's absolutely okay and absolutely normal. And in fact, we're gonna get together, you know, in our grief and do the thing that we as Christians, as Catholics do, which is find the joy. So we go into the darkness, we go into, you know, Good Friday and then the waiting of Holy Saturday, but we find hope. And that's what I loved so much about, I got to do this with Paula last year at St. Thomas Becket, and I was so thrilled because it is this honoring of what is, but you don't stay there, right? That's the we're a resurrection people. We go to, okay, this stinks. I might not be quite ready to joy, you know, joy to the world, but I trust that God is going to be, Jesus will be the light in my darkness, that I can still go to God. Because that's, for me, I think that's such an important theology, right? For me personally, God doesn't make bad things happen. There's physics, there's free will, right? But God is the go-to. God is the go-to that helps us make meaning out of our lives. So Paula will lead us in how to make meaning of this time that's just hard.
Yeah. And Father Jerry, why now? Is this something we've always been lacking in addressing, or is the world itself need this now more than ever?
I definitely think the world needs it. You know, there's just a lot of levels, and we talk about grief. You know, you can grieve the, you know, your independence as you get older, loss of vision or loss of hearing. You know, I was talking to a mother recently who's, you know, the youngest just going off to college, and she just misses her at home. You know, she's delighted that her daughter's in college, but there's a loss there on a level. So there's a lot of different kinds of experiences, and I think in recent years we've become more sensitive to the emotional life of all of us. You know, most of us, well, not most, you know, in my upbringing, you tended to repress feelings. You know, and you are going to be happy. I don't care how bad you are, you know, you're going to make yourself happy. And, you know, that does a lot of emotional damage when you're sort of denied the ability that, you know what, I'm feeling down this Christmas, you know.
Yeah.
I lost my soulmate, or I lost the job that was the world to me. It's not just physical death. That's what I like about this, that there's a lot of different human experiences that complicate your life when all around people are dancing and singing and can't wait to get together, and you're at a place where I don't really want to see anybody right now, or I'm not up for a big family dinner, or no one seems to get it that I'm depressed, you know, and I you know, it's just part of life, and I think the more we can give people permission, you feel what you're feeling, you know, and it's just a shame that sometimes people feel they can't express their feelings, or they don't know how to express their feelings. And then when you think of church, you know, hopefully when people come to worship, they're bringing their whole person to this experience, not just the happy side, but the other parts of my life that are wounded or hurting, if we can open that up to the Lord and to one another, you know, we're going to get through the holidays, we're going to continue our healing, we're going to be able to move forward. I think by doing things like this, we can make great progress in our life of understanding who we are and what our needs are. But I do think it's a rather recent insight or awareness in the life of, I can speak for the Catholic Church. We're so focused on the joy of, you know, the baby born in Bethlehem, and we haven't really been very aware of the fact that this is the first Christmas we won't be all together, or we've had to downsize our expectations because of some financial realities, or there's estrangements in my family, you know, that have kept us apart from one another. So I think there's just a great opportunity there to be with one another and to be consoled and comforted by the beautiful treasury of music and poetry and scripture that speaks so powerfully to these emotions. Many of us have not been exposed to those things or look at them that way. And I think this is an occasion where connecting some of those dots can happen.
Well, Father Jerry just mentioned the experience. So Paula, what experience would someone expect coming to the service?
A very peaceful experience, an acknowledgement of one's feelings. It will be beautiful music. Margaret will be singing.
So will Paula. we also have a cellist that's coming from St. Norbert and a bassist that's coming from St. Catherine's. So,
Do you see people who Father Jerry mentioned? Maybe people are estranged. Do you see people coming together who are estranged to the service to try to mend whatever's keeping them apart?
It's certainly a possibility. But even if the people are estranged, they can come and bring those feelings to the Lord, and like Margaret said, it is a beautiful way to again put your trust, put your surrender in the only one that can really hold it, and that is God.
Now tell me, this must be obviously so meaningful for you.
Yeah.
What do you feel during this service as the facilitator?
Yeah, it really has been a healing thing for me as well, because not only did I lose my husband, but a couple years ago, the person I was dating for 4 years got stage 4 lymphoma. And he lasted just less than 2 years and died this past Thanksgiving, a year ago Thanksgiving. It was horrible. It was horrible. So I bring personal experience of loss and personal experience that God is with you every step of the way, if you just look.
Wow. And Margaret, talk a little bit about how music itself can be part of the healing process.
Oh, I could go on about this forever. So, as you guys know, some of my work is as a music thanatologist. So I do live music at the bedside of people that are dying, in addition to all the great work I get to do with funerals and weddings as a cantor. And the amazing thing about music is it's stored all over the brain, right? So with dementia patients, people that can't speak are able to sing, so you go, you are my sunshine, my only, and their speech centers are damaged, but they can go, sunshine, this little sing-songy voice. It's the best. We use it with strokes, people that have had strokes that are learning to speak again. We're using music because music is stored in emotional centers as well as memory. It's just everywhere in the brain. And it's such a part of, when I do presentations on making meaning, we'll talk about the sacrament of cinema, right? Music is such a huge part of this ritual, this secular ritual that we all do together. It's such a part of the baseball games. It's music. We use music so often to help us have a collective experience. And there's one of my favorite podcasts is Hidden Brain, and there was a guy on it just in the last month that was talking about ritual and how they will put heart monitors on everybody involved in a ritual, and our heartbeats come together, with the music, with the event. And so that idea of you're not alone in your grief, your estrangement, your loss of a job, that as a community, we're coming together, and the music helps bring us together, and the prayers help bring us together, help us beat as one heart, so it's really taking away that sense of being alone. Even though I don't have to talk to the guy next to me, I can sit and just be alone with my grief and my tears. I'm still in this community, which is, what we offer every Sunday. But in this particular case of, we're going to come as you are, you don't have to be, we're not going to cajole you into, or shame you into happiness. We're just going to be with your heart. We're going to bear witness for each other.
Wow. Well, Father Jerry, maybe you'd like to give everyone a special invitation for people who may need this service.
Yeah, sometimes you hear about something like this, and intellectually it sounds like, boy, that's a great idea. I'm not sure I could handle it, or my pain is very raw, or it's just going to be a downer experience, and I don't need another downer experience. And that's not what it is. So I just encourage you, if you're not in the Christmas spirit for whatever reasons, to just come together for an evening of music and prayer and comfort. No one's going to be doing a checklist of what circumstances brought you to a Blue Christmas celebration. Just feel welcome to come. There's so many different human experiences that could be touched by this. We immediately think of the loss of a loved one physically, but there's so many other things that are also part of the human experience of loss, and we generally feel very isolated and alone in our grief. And this is an opportunity to just feel the power of folks coming together, opening their heart to a message of hope, and realizing that I'm not the only one that finds this time of the year really tough. And what can happen is I'm just going to stay home and close the door and just feel very sad. And this is an opportunity to just join others that are looking for some hope and healing during this time of the year.
Yeah. So our event is Wednesday, December 18th at 7 p.m. and in our church, and it's not just for people from OLPH, right?
Oh, no. Everybody's invited.
Everyone's invited, and even non-Catholics, I would imagine.
Of course.
Anyone can
Yeah,
come.
and the three parishes in our grouping, the Catholic community of Glenbrook, have all participated, have all contributed resources to make this happen.
That's wonderful. Now, if people have questions, can they contact you? Is there an email or anything you'd like to put out there?
Can we put it on your website?
Yes, we can do that.
Okay.
So go to
Sure.
olphglenview.org, and they will have the contact information right there for you, links. Again, it'll be Wednesday, December 18th at 7 p.m. All are invited. Margaret and Paula, thank you so much for being here. Father
Thanks
Jerry,
for having us.
great as always.
Thank you, Terry.
And
Rob Orr, we got to thank our
Thank you, Rob.
documentarian who documents everything that's going on here.
that's right.
Somebody looking forward to this evening, Paula and Margaret, and I'm sure it's going to be a very moving and beautiful experience.
Thanks for having it. Thanks for hosting. Yeah.
And we hope to see you and your crew in the pew on Sunday.